Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 107 today for the Bahrain Grand Prix in Season 6. If you guys did miss the previous episode and the opener of this season, then be sure to check that one out before you see this one at the Australian Grand Prix. And I just want to say a massive thank you guys for the reaction to that episode, and especially also the finale of Season 5 as well. Both those episodes did amazingly good, so thank you very much for all the kind comments and also just smashing those like buttons. Really appreciate it. And so we head into Bahrain then, yes, the second round of this season in our brand new home at Red Bull Racing with the Honda power unit. You can see on the performance chart here, if we look and compare, this is what I was talking about the scaling of the performance chart. If you look carefully, the scaling for this season is a little bit smaller than the scale was last season. So the gulf that Renault have, it is kind of there and it is a little bit large, but it isn't as large as it actually looks like it is on the chart if we compare it to what last season's stats were looking like. So like I said, pretty much Red Bull and Renault, the gap between these two teams have stayed almost the same, I would say, from Season 5 to Season 6. But everyone plateauing, of course, no one's going to do an upgrade early on into Bahrain. I suspect maybe some upgrades come for China and then the next episode. But at the moment, everyone's saving up resource points as they've probably spent all them over winter from Season 5 to Season 6 to obviously get the car to where it is today. But, you know, last episode was pretty decent for us. I would say, all things considered, it was okay for the team. But obviously, Verstappen did not have such a great time. So I'm hoping that this time at Sakhir, Bahrain, both of us can actually show what this car is maybe capable of, and it's probably the first real litmus test at where the car is maybe. But at the same time, Bahrain's also a very unique circuit. It's a bit of a power circuit, so it won't truly show us where the car is at fully. I don't think we'll fully know until the Spanish Grand Prix, to be honest, but I think it'll be obviously a bit of a different story maybe to Australia. A very different kind of circuit. This is a thoroughbred circuit, whereas Australia is usually just a park most of the time. So we'll see about that. We're going to head straight into Q1 then. We know it's going to be a difficult qualifying session. Bahrain always is very difficult, especially over one lap against the AI, so I'm not expecting anything spectacular. And to that effect, we're in the drop zone right now in Q1. Across the line though, up into P14. Now that second flying lap I just did was on the same set of supers I did my first lap on, so that was a worn set of supers. I then went to a fresh set of tyres because by the end of the session, you can see the top right, we're in the last half minute and we're down to P16 once again. So I set a lap time, that was good enough for P16, then set a second one on the same set of tyres to P14, that dropped to P16 again, and now we're on to a second set in Q1. So that's not ideal. We're going to have to use two sets of super soft tyres in Q1. Usually we can get away with just going through on one set, but that's how bad the performance is at Bahrain, at least for me personally, compared to AI. They're just so good around here, especially under one-lap conditions with no heavy fuel. And so we do make it through to Q2 eventually, though, thankfully, up into P12 that is. But Verstappen does really well in P9, so he's looking like he might have a bit more of a handle of the circuit than me over one lap at least. And you can see Alonso and the Renault's looking pretty damn good, but someone who's not looking pretty good is Sebastian Vettel, who doesn't make it out, and Raikkonen just barely makes it into the Q2 shootout there. So Ferrari, you know, it wasn't a fluke Australia. They genuinely are way down there. It's Ferrari now, my old team from Season 5, have one of the worst engines on the grid pretty much. They might be pretty good on the chassis and aero, but they're going to have to do a lot of work on that Ferrari Works power unit of theirs in the back of the car to kind of improve steadily this season. But we now move into Q2. We set our first flying lap there. It's going to get us up into P6, which is not too bad, ahead of Verstappen actually, who's tried to get it through on soft tyres, which surprised me, but fair enough. And so now we're pushed down to P14 though. Verstappen's improved his lap time on soft tyres, so at the moment I think Verstappen's actually through into the top 10 shootout on softs, which is a little bit embarrassing for me because at the moment I'm down in P14 on super softs and I'm going to another set of super softs, so this isn't great for me. We are gaining a heap of time though on the top right, and you can see we hold on to that positive delta time pretty much through the entire lap. I've had a habit of gaining way more time in Sector 1 than I do in Sector 2 around Sakhir, but now through the last corner then, and it's such a big amount of time we've gained that I feel confident we could get into Q3. So as we go to the line, a little bit of a screen freeze, open DRS across the line, and it's only going to be P11, and it is a very disappointing day on Saturday here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Verstappen gets through on soft tyres. He's done a mega job, and to be fair, I guess that's almost a little bit of karma in a way, in terms of, you know, Verstappen got knocked out in Q1 for this same strategy at Australia, and basically got held up for the entire Grand Prix, so he didn't get a chance to really show what he could really do in a race scenario with the new Red Bull Honda car. So kind of paying back in a way in terms of the F1 gods. letting him go into the top 10 shootout now, so he will be able to start on soft tyres. Of course, though, this is kind of best of the rest. I now get a free choice of tyres, and I'm just outside the top 10, and it might be higher if there's any grid penalties, but it's not ideal that Verstappen's beaten me by that much time on a slower tyre. But obviously, like I've said, I've never been a great qualifier, and especially at Bahrain, I've never been great. Over one lap, I just can't match there. I don't know what it is. I just don't have a certain flow on low fuel, whereas on higher fuel, I do better at Bahrain, because you've got the kind of DRS and fighting in a way, and also strategy plays into it. So I'm confident we can do a lot better in the race, kind of like what I said at Australia, but just a little bit annoyed at that, because we're also pretty close to actually getting into the top 10 shootout, and that would have been a bit more ideal. But also at the same time, because I had used 2 sets of super softs in Q1, I was probably only going to get 1 run in Q3, and that probably wouldn't have been enough to even get higher than maybe P10. So might be a blessing in disguise for us when it comes to race day. So let's go to the grid and see how we do.
There's something in the Bahrain air tonight, and I'm not just talking about the sand. Our brightest minds have thrust their brightest ideas into the spotlight of the Sakhir circuit this evening as we look ahead once more to a Grand Prix that has thrilled us so consistently in the past. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today, with 15 corners and 2 DRS zones into turns 1 and turn 11. That should create some good passing opportunities. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Anthony Davidson joins me again for the race today. Let's talk about the engineer. No grid penalties, no mitigating circumstances, just a poor qualifying performance and a very disappointing start position for them today.
They'll have a sinking feeling as they look up from the cockpit and realise they're in a different postcode to the start line for sure.
So now let's take a look at the starting grid ahead of the Bahrain Grand Prix, round number 2 of Season 6. And a great day for Nico Hülkenberg and his new team to grab pole position ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second place, a front row lockout for the Mercs. Then comes my teammate with a great P3 to embarrass me even more. Last race winners Dan Ricciardo in 4th place, with Alonso and Gasly on the row behind. Perez and Sainz then follow with Van Dorn and Charles Leclerc rounding out the top 10. And then myself and Romain Grosjean in P11-12, Ocon, Raikkonen, Bottas, Kevin Magnussen down to P16. Then Sebastian Vettel, Sergei Sorokin, Lance Stroll and Brendan Hartley round out the grid there. Brendan Hartley taking an early grid penalty this season at round number 2. But that is the starting grid ahead of the race. Right, so here we are then in P11 in a different postcode, according to Anthony Davidson there. Thank you, Ant, for that insult there in the commentary. I really appreciate that. But anyway, we start on a set of soft tyres. Like I said, because we're in P11, we get a chance to have a free choice of tyres. So actually, the ironic thing is we joined Verstappen on this strategy because, remember, he qualified into the top 10 on soft tyres. And so we're the only guys in the top, I would say, 15 maybe, that are going to start on the soft tyres here. So we have a very good chance of making this strategy work. It's a one-stop, soft to medium, and so we just need to make sure we do well in the opening laps, and then also, once we get in clean air, the minimum lap times we're doing, we need to concentrate on keeping them as high as we can to maintain a bit of a track position on the guys that are making a second stop later in the race. And the same goes for Verstappen. He's up in P3, by the way, obviously due to that kind of unfortunate glitch qualifying in Q3, because I didn't make it in there. The simulation put him up into P3. But anyway, that's another story. We'll just have to concentrate on our race from P11 and try and do the best job we can and try and navigate what's inevitably going to be quite a chaotic opening lap, really, with a very tight first 1 and 2. So here we go. We're going to get into it then as we go to the 5 red lights for round number 2 of Season 6 here. The Bahrain Grand Prix, 29 laps ahead of us under the floodlights. We're underway as the lights are out. It's a good start initially, but then in third gear, a lot of wheel spin there. And so Romain Grosjean's going to go on the right-hand side and get up into P11. We're down to P12 momentarily as we now get in the brake zone at turn 1 and try and maybe find a way around the outside of Van Dorn. Not going to work, though, as now the Sauber gets squeezed out of Leclerc. So good move for Van Dorn there, the man we were fighting for a podium last race, and it's 3 wide up ahead as Van Dorn makes a dive bomb down the inside. We're getting dive bombed ourselves by that is a great move by Grosjean, but then he goes and slams into the side pod of the Force India there. So very reckless driving in a way and dangerous driving from Grosjean there in that opening sector as we now try and go around the outside of the Force India and get stuck behind the Frenchman. Now we have a little bit of a look, but ultimately can't lunge it. But meanwhile, in the lead of this Grand Prix is Lewis Hamilton then. He's in first place. place. Hulkenberg's being got off the line on the Friday red lights, clearly. He was on pole, but he's down to second place now and being chased after by the man who replaced him at Renault, Daniel Ricciardo, in third place there. And I'm assuming eventually the Renaults, both of them, will get up there and maybe get back into a commanding lead, because obviously, like I said, Q3 is always glitched if you don't get into it as a player. The simulation simulates a Season 1 performance, so that is why Verstappen was right up there in P3, and that's why he's not in P3 anymore. He's waltzed all the way down to, I think, P5 or P6 there, although remember, he is on soft tyres. Me and him are the only guys on softs in the top 10 at the moment, so that's also maybe a reason why he's slumped down the order. You know, it's not a worry. If me and Verstappen fall down the order right now at the very beginning of this race, that is not a worry, because everyone else should be faster in theory on super softs. We just have to make sure we're getting the best out of the car right now and just be patient. Later on this race, this strategy will come back to us and pay dividends as we now go on to lap 2, and Grosjean gets an engine failure right in front of me. They're smoking away. Thank God I was on the left-hand side of him there, as there's now a kerfuffle up ahead with Verstappen losing more time there, and so Alonso and Van Dorn are going to be all over the back of him, but very lucky not to smash into the back of Grosjean there. He was going to pull to the middle, and thankfully he did so, because I avoided him there. But now we're in a train of Verstappen, Alonso and Van Dorn, so Verstappen really is struggling for pace on these soft tyres. So he qualified so well, I wonder maybe he took too much rubber out of them in Q2, as we now send one down the inside of Van Dorn, catch him napping, because he's going very slow behind Alonso, and so that's very satisfying, especially after last race where we had to lose to him in the last lap of the Grand Prix for that P3 podium that he got. So very nice to overtake him so easily, as now Fernando Alonso tries to dance around the outside of Verstappen, who really is not doing well at the moment in this Grand Prix. And so now we might get a double toe off Verstappen and Alonso. Here we go now. Alonso can't keep up with Verstappen, so the Honda power is working well on the back of this Red Bull car. We go down the inside now to make a double overtake on Alonso and Verstappen. We're going to get that done into turns 2, and we're up into P6 then. So a very good opening 3 laps, actually, all things considered, and with a bit of aid of Verstappen holding people up there. So I don't know if he's maybe on low ERS modes, if you've got some sort of issue in the car. I don't really know why he's going so slow at the moment, but he's hoping that he can solve whatever issues he's having. Meanwhile, you've got a change for the race lead. That's going to happen on lap 4, as we've got Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault pulling alongside and overtaking Hamilton, and into P1 Ricciardo goes, and so the man who won the last race is back in the lead of the second round, and Carlos Sainz's teammate is up ahead of Nico Hulkenberg in the silver arrow there. So the Renaults run 1 and 4 there, I think that is, with Gasly doing a stonking job in P3 in the Toro Rosso so far. Meanwhile, you can see having to do some defensive work, because Verstappen is actually now speeding up a little bit. So I wonder if he was running lower ERS modes, because now I squeeze him to the right hand side, swoop back to the racing line, and we hold that racing position for now. And meanwhile, Van Dorn behind Verstappen has got ahead of Alonso, actually, so Alonso now is the one falling away. So very peculiar. I don't know why Verstappen was so slow for those like 2 laps, but now as we move on to lap 6, he's kind of sped up a little bit, but we are kind of maintaining a bit of a nice lead, and we get up into P5 because Hulkenberg then pits. And then as we move on towards lap 8, this will be, you can see on the mini map, there'll be some more people in the pit lane, and so that's Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, and so up into P3. Gasly and Ricciardo stay out for one more lap, but I should think they're going to come in pretty damn soon on lap 8 or lap 9, and so therefore eventually you can see it will be myself and Verstappen with a 1-2 for Red Bull Honda here. So then it's just about trying to maintain the lap times, because as long as me and Verstappen stay in P1 and 2 now, we will actually be able to come out after our pit stop in that position, because everyone now, if you realise, only everyone now has to make one more stop in this race, including us, onto mediums. But Verstappen actually does overtake us later on the next lap, on lap 11, into the last corner, although I don't put up too much of a fight, because he probably will come in very soon, because my engineer has said the pit stop window has officially opened up, and there goes Verstappen. Then he comes in, I get DRS off him, so I actually use him a little bit there to get my lap time a little bit faster, because now we have DRS for that lap on lap 13, and onto lap 14 you can see on the bottom right we've drained that ERS bar down to 1/3 remaining there, and so now we continue on for one more lap, because my lap 13 was such a good lap time. We actually improved and did our personal best lap time on lap 13 that I thought we may as well continue on for one more lap and try and get an overcut maybe on Verstappen. And also there's no point me pitting right now if I'm going well on soft tyres, because the mediums aren't going to be exactly a great race tyre in my opinion and by experience, so we'll just continue on for one more lap. But actually now the safety car has come out, the full safety car has come out, so it's been a blessing in disguise as Sergei Sorokin is out of this Grand Prix, and that's why the safety car was called out then. And so we have a very good chance now to make a free pit stop and doubly guarantee ourselves to come out in first place, as Sorokin now parks it up there, engine spewing with smoke, and that is why the safety car is called out, because that's a very dangerous spot to park the car in. And so now we're going to come through the last corner, pit, and I said come out in P1. We won't actually come out in P1 on track, but if you know what I mean, we're going to come in now, pit for mediums, and you can see behind us Ricciardo, Hamilton, the likes of Sainz, your Gasly's on the track. They're all yet to make their second pit stop, and you can see that flash of yellow there. That was Ricciardo going past. None of them are going to pit under the safety guard because they need to carry on for at least 4 more laps to actually make the 2-stop work, because they can't go that long on a set of soft tyres, or at least they don't think they can. And so we're going to come out in prime position on these mediums now to the end of the Grand Prix. We're going to get ahead of Alonso and Verstappen, actually, because it was also a combination of my in-lap, and then also the safety car slows everyone down to a delta time, so I managed to jump at Alonso and Verstappen in that way. So a P5, but everyone in front of me, Gasly, the 2 Renaults, and the Mercedes, I think that is there in the middle of them, they all have to make a second stop in this Grand Prix still, whereas I do not, Verstappen does not. And so as we go to green flag, we get going here. It's a bit of a slow start because of course I'm on medium tyres versus the soft, so again me and Verstappen may well lose time in this opening part of the lap because we're on slower tyres, but just about again being patient as Carlos Sainz now does battle and gets up into second place to make it a 1-2 for Renault. Hamilton down to P3, but Gasly will actually attack him and go around his outside then, so a very nice move that's going to be for the Frenchman. But like I said, we just, you know, we don't need to fight, we just can sit back here and just watch them all fight each other, because they're all going to have to come in. There's no way they go to the end. If it will be a miracle and quite something if I see any of these guys stay out now to the end of the Grand Prix, because that is you know, very dangerous territory for a puncher, just like it was for us last season in Season 5. And so we're going through the motions on lap 18. Alonso is actually catching up to us a bit more than we're catching up to Hamilton. Like I said, the mediums v softs, even on these worn soft tyres, are going to be a little bit slower then, and Alonso catches up. We're in non-ERS mode because at this point there is, like I said, no point really fighting, so Alonso's going to catch us up quite quickly there. You can see the difference ERS really does make and why the management is so important at the moment in this season after the engine regulation reset. You know, like I said, towards the end of the Australian Grand Prix, the kind of, you know, difference really shows, and it kind of, you know, almost makes me appreciate how much a good ERS management upgrade can do for you in the race. But now we move up into P4. Verstappen right behind me, slipstreaming me now a little bit, so I play around with the ERS and I'm still trying to save as much as I can because we're on half a bar, because I keep using overtake mode on the back straight in the middle of sector 2, and so I try to save some in sector 1. That's where I do most of my ERS saving around Bahrain. And so Verstappen is closing up on us now on lap 19 with 10 laps to go, and he might close up so much so to make a move in. So again I find myself squeezing him to the right hand side. He goes for it to the inside. It's a fantastic little fight here now with my new teammate in Red Bull, and Verstappen tried his best there, but he got over the curbing and unsettled his car. But that was the first signs maybe of a Red Bull duel brewing here at Bahrain, because remember, eventually me and Verstappen will be 1-2, and here we go now across the line onto lap 20 with 9 laps to go in this Grand Prix. We're up into the leads of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Verstappen is in second. It's a 1-2 for Red Bull Honda, and now it's just a case of which Red Bull is going to lead and win this Grand Prix as we lock up into turn 1. Verstappen is sniffing blood. Third place, if you didn't see there, it's Esteban Ocon in the Force India in third place, along with a whole lot of other cars actually. It's going to be Valtteri Bottas, who's in fourth place in the his new Sauber team in P4. Then you've got Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, and then Kimi Raikkonen, all on mediums, apart from Raikkonen, who's out of sync, I think, because the Ferrari really isn't that fast now this season to be right up there. Then Hülkenberg and Ricciardo, and so that is where the effective previous race leader was, Ricciardo. That's how much time he has to gain then, visually speaking, to the race lead. But now we move on to lap 21. We're not thinking about Ricciardo, we're thinking about Verstappen as he now tries to make a move on the outside of turn 1 there. Big old dive. We're in lower ERS mode, still trying to save as much battery power, because look at that, look at the battery power I have. I basically have nothing to deploy now, and so I'm in non-ERS mode, and so Verstappen is going to have me for chips maybe in a straight line. He sends one on the outside there. I desperately try and defend to the inside there, so we really are going to go dueling in the desert here under the night sky in Bahrain. Wheel banging we go, me v Verstappen for the first time really this season now in the new Red Bull Honda powered car, and we're going to maintain first place for now. Great side-by-side moments there with Verstappen, and giving each other just about enough respect and room, and a little bit of wheel banging never hurt anyone really, just adds to the spectacle. And Verstappen's going to keep up with us though as we go through the next left-hander, and he's going to have a very good chance now to overtake us because he'll have DRS as well. And so, yeah, he's just going to pretty much fly past us. There's nothing more I can really say about that. He just has too much straight line speed because I'm still trying to save ERS because I'm only just over half ERS bar charge up left. So I'm just constantly trying to charge this up because obviously we've got 8 laps. It's not a sprint race to the end. It's a bit of a marathon still. 8 laps is a long time around Bahrain, and so I'm trying to play the long game of saving up ERS, and I'm hoping that in the end I will have enough ERS to re-overtake him. That is a big hope, I will admit, but I'd rather do that than just trying to hold him up and have it be a bit of a turtle fight for the entirety of the race, because that will only back us up into the likes of Ocon. And speaking of Ocon, he might actually try and make a little pop, so I go defensive into turn 1, but what I don't want to happen is myself and Verstappen fighting so hard side by side and me blocking him off for P1 with no ERS to the point where Ricciardo, all the way back in P8, can catch up to us and retake the race lead. That's the last thing I want here, and so I'd rather let him go, save up the ERS and retry to overtake him basically, and that's what we will do now. On lap 23 we come with DRS wide open now to the right hand side. We are going to fly past him into turn 1, but we go deep a little bit there. We go way too late on the brakes, and so Verstappen gets a beautiful switchback move, and he's back up into P1, and it's very clear that it's going to be a hard-fought battle with Verstappen if we want that first place today on him, as you would imagine, Verstappen being Verstappen. But we move on later into this Grand Prix, taking a look at the little train behind us. So it's Sergio Perez in P4, Ocon still P3, Leclerc then is in P5, that is Ricciardo then. Ricciardo's already overtaken Bottas, and Gasly is the Toro Rosso right in the distance, as well as Carlos Sainz. So Ricciardo, Gasly and Sainz are all now catching up to that train behind us, so if we're not careful they might catch up to us. So let's play this clever and try and make this pass done and done as we go around the outside now on lap 26, and this time it's looking like a much better overtaking opportunity as we now are into P1, but we go a little bit wide into turn 2 and we lose a bit of traction there. That little bit of oversteer has meant that Verstappen has switched us from the right to the left and has somehow found his way on the outside, but we dive it to the inside. It's a big lock-up on the front right tyre, and somehow we've not collided with Verstappen. Verstappen, very respectful there, gives us the room on the inside despite us going way too hot into that corner, and so that's GG's from Verstappen there, because otherwise that would have been a horrible collision because I went in way too hot into that right-hander. But now onto the last lap of the Grand Prix, Verstappen is going to try one last time on the outside. We lock up on the front right tyre, desperately trying to close this down, but now again through turns 2, Verstappen's been mega through this section of the track, and he's again going to come back at us, even despite us being in hot lap mode. He tries it again for a last time on this lap on the outside, but this time we don't outbrake ourselves. We're going to maintain the racing line and we're going to maintain first place. Meanwhile, in that exact same moment, this is Esteban Ocon in third place, and that is Daniel Ricciardo up into P4. He's overtaken Perez, Leclerc, Bottas, Hülkenberg, and he's now back up into P4 after making a second late stop in this race, and he's chasing after the Frenchman on those soft tyres, those much fresher soft tyres I might add as well. So let's see if Ocon can maintain that P3 and help the Red Bulls push down the Renaults in the constructors fight. Meanwhile though, it's still Verstappen P2. He's not caught up to us on the back straight, just to show you there, but let's focus back on this fight for P3 because this might be very important for the early championship standings. So Ricciardo now is trying his best to pressurise Ocon on the last lap of the Grand Prix. He's right up his chuff, so that might be a chance for him to overtake in the last corner maybe. But as we come back to our POV, more pressing matters at hand, because here we come now to the last corner of the Bahrain Grand Prix, and we're going to lead home a very historical 1-2 for the new Red Bull and Honda partnership here in Formula 1. It's going to be the win at the Bahrain Grand Prix, our first win with Red Bull. Absolutely ecstatic at that. We've done it at round 2 so early. Get in there.
Brilliant stuff from Red Bull today. What a superb victory. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
And I can see now the drivers are making their way out. We need Red Bull fighting at the front. They do an incredible amount for Formula 1. And that's another winner's trophy heading back to Milton Keynes.
And just before we look at the full race results, here's now a replay, guys, of the last 2 laps of that Grand Prix and showing you the fight between Ocon and Ricciardo, because it was highly contested for P3, but Ocon has done a great job today at trying to keep Force India's podium there. Remember, Force India have not been podium winners, basically, for now, I think, 3-4 seasons. They were right up there. They were a top 3 team in Season 2 of this career mode, and then from Season 3, when the rules reset, they just went all the way down to the bottom, and they've not been here since, and so this is quite good for them to be back on podium ways, and this is a big old fight from Ocon there. So the Renault might have an advantage of power there, the best power unit on the grid, the best aero, best chassis, but still the Force India has enough straight line speed to keep Ricciardo at bay there into turn 1, doing a great job. And this was the last lap of the Grand Prix, this was, and so we cut away to watch us go across the line, but this is what was happening behind us. Ocon defends Ricciardo in the last lap. Ricciardo was ahead in P3 by a millimetre for a second, and then it's a photo finish across the line for Ocon to get that 3rd place for Force India. So absolutely wonderful stuff there for the Frenchman. Very happy for him and the team there, because it's been a long while, like I said, since they were in a podium finish. But you can see there's a full race result. Charles Leclerc with a fantastic 5th place there for Sauber, the lead Ferrari powered car there. So Leclerc, like I said in last episode, probably thanking his lucky stars he stayed in Sauber, because they are the kind of #1 Ferrari team at the moment. But in the Drivers' Championship then, we are level on points with Ricciardo. I didn't think that was going to be possible after Renault's performances, but of course we got very, very lucky, I will admit, with the safety car. But at the same time, Verstappen was there in P2 and he did not get the safety car luck. He was just there on the strategy. So to be honest, actually, I'm going to take that back. We didn't get any more lucky with the safety car than we would have with the strategy. It was the strategy that really won us out there. So I've got to say a GG's and big thank you to our new team here at Red Bull Honda, because they did wonders there. That strategy of 1-stop from soft to mediums for both our cars worked like a charm. It got us a 1-2 against all odds here at Bahrain. So it's, like I said, a very good start to this partnership here. I'm so happy we're able to get a win straight off the bat in the opening 2 rounds of this new partnership. I can kind of, close a bookend and just ignore what's happened in the past with the toxic relationship with Ferrari, the way that ended at the end of Season 5, and we can just, revel in this new alliance with Red Bull. And it's a very good start to the partnership. And I've got to say, some fantastic dueling with Verstappen, and it was very nice to see. We had a lot of respect for each other. He gave me that room in that near collision kind of overtake I did for P1, and so GG's to him. And I guess there's gonna be some I'm sure some future battles that we can all look forward to. But now we go to the interviews and then round out the episode.
Good day today. Tell us about it from your perspective. How are you feeling after that win?
Gotta say I'm elated, and like I alluded to, gotta say a big thanks to the team for putting me up here and putting the work to get me there for that race win. So that's going to increase their rep.
What do you think made the difference between this weekend and last weekend?
And then I wasn't really sure what to say, because really, honestly, it was just the strategy here. But I thought I'd just go for the chassis, because it did help us today to kind of nip around Verstappen with those moves. So I guess I'll say that on the left hand side.
Great. Well, that's everything.
And so that is the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Absolutely amazing scenes there. A 1-2 for Red Bull Honda. Quite something. I really did not think we were going to say that, but you know what? Miracle strategy gives us a miracle result. I don't think we're going to duplicate that at China, but you take them when you get them. You can't really, beggars can't be choosers really in Formula 1 sometimes. So guys, if you did enjoy that episode, be sure to smash that like button, guys, and let me know what you thought of that duel in the comments below. But in terms of upgrades now, we do have enough funds to buy a minor upgrade, and I said we are going to maybe look at this very end part of the R&D tree of the engine, because we've got a minor, a major, and then an ultimate. I think that's a really nice tree branch to go up on the engine department. So we're going to buy the minor engine power upgrade, so pure horsepower that will give us for the Chinese Grand Prix next episode. So hopefully that's going to be a help down that back straight. Obviously we do have the improved Honda power unit, but Toro Rosso have had the Honda power unit for a while now, and so they're ahead of us in the engine department, so we still have some catching up to do. So this is the start of that journey basically. But again guys, if you did enjoy the episode, hit that like button. If you are on your own, you can subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I'm Brent Ever. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.